All right, so we made two recent discoveries. So the first one, I was real stuck on how to make this have like a gray overlay over it. Come to find out, there is something called a background image transparent. How to make a background image transparent. And it kind of gives it that effect that I'm looking for to give it. If I have my example, I don't think I have my example up right now. Oh no, I have it right here. I want it to look like this. So the background image kind of has a transparent look. You have the text over it. This is exactly what I need right here. So I'm glad I found a video to cover that. On top of that, I came across some ideas on how to better improve the website I'm building. So I kind of had this idea about Leonardo da Vinci, and I was at work today and I'm like, how can I take this idea further than what I'm already thinking of it being right now? And I understand that this is a practice project. It probably will just go under the radar, but I just want to give it some kind of creative direction. I want to start practicing that and really just show more passion towards the work. Not saying that I don't have any passion towards it, but just show a little bit more creative direction towards it and actually make it like a real thing. Like if this was done, this could actually be a real thing. So if I could find here it is. So I had this idea to make sure this doesn't fail on me. Okay. So yeah, this is okay. Real quick. So content creation future. There's a lot of things I've been planning. A lot of two of these names look familiar. This will look familiar, but this isn't. That's not what's important. This is what's important right here. So the goal of this website is to capture the feeling of the people looking at the paintings / living as everyday citizens during that time through the lens of the ingredients within a pizza. So pretty self-explanatory. Just when you eat the pizza, that's kind of like your idea of what it's like to be an audience member looking at these paintings during the time. So I figured the Mona Lisa, green peppers. I feel like the green peppers kind of emulate the background, the greenish backgrounds that is going on. The sausage probably emulates the mountains that are in the background. The bacon. I feel like the bacon. Bring up an image real quick. I feel like the bacon. I don't know. There's something like satisfactory about bacon, or satisfying about bacon. And the fact that this image came out during such an early time, I couldn't even tell you what time it came out. I'm not even gonna lie. They don't have it off 1797. To have an image like this look as quality as it is with the shading, and there's a lot of little details that went into this. That's just really what I wanted to capture with these pizzas. The bacon, once again, it has some kind of finishing touch element that just makes you want to eat more, or in this case, look at it more. That, the bacon, it doesn't have to be big slabs of pieces. It could just be crumbled up pieces or whatever. So anyway, that's where I was going with that. I have two other ideas. The Italian Renaissance. Once again, from the perspective of an audience member, Italian Renaissance, you have a lot of things going on at one time. Pepperoni has its own flavor. Sausage has its own flavor. Bacon has its own flair and flavor. Black olives, mushrooms, just the idea of a supreme pizza, Italian Renaissance, a bunch of things going on. The Last Supper, sausage, black olives, mushrooms, with a side of Holy Ranch. I thought the idea of Holy Ranch would be cool. So that's just what I was thinking. I don't have to go make a whole menu, but I figured having these three match the theme of what I'm trying to make would be pretty cool. A Leonardo da Vinci themed restaurant titled High Renaissance. So I thought that would be pretty cool. Anyway, I feel like I got to do a briefing of this as well. So like I've been studying not a lot of creative directors, but I've been looking at a lot of Louis Vuitton, fashion world kind of things. And I really got this idea from Pharrell. Currently, Pharrell is the creative director of Louis Vuitton. I figured, Pharrell started off in music and he became a creative director of a big brand. Why couldn't I do something with tech and do the same thing? So it's just an idea. Who knows if it'll make it all the way down there, but I feel like that should be the goal of my web developer journey, to be honest. Gary Vee, if you don't know who he is, highly advised to look him up. I just think he's a great leader. There's a lot of things that he does, not just does, but like his mindset on action, such as put your team first over the client and really build an ecosystem that can be like your family. And it's always about what can I do for you as the leader. It's not you work for me. It's all about what can I do for you. And I feel like Pharrell does the same thing as the creative director of Louis Vuitton. He showcases that mindset of what can I do for you? How can I praise you? How can I have our group be inclusive and be the best of our abilities? So I put these two within the same document because I feel like they're very synonymous. Shark Tank sales pitches. That's something else I want to research a little bit more on. I feel like there's something about Shark Tank sales pitches. It's an elevator pitch. I feel like there's nuances that you could learn from just from watching that. So all of this is to study the impact on the ecosystem. So whether it's Pharrell's team, Gary Vee's team, or if it's a Shark Tank sales pitch, what is the impact of the value that you are planning to bring to the table? Same thing with Pharrell. What is the impact that you are providing for the end consumer? In recent cases, he's been releasing Louis Vuitton pieces that are key focused on details, the feel of the product, the pearls, the embroidery, the patchwork. Gary Vee, he's all about value, from what I understand, all about the impact of value on the end consumer. What can I do for you? That's the best way I could put it. That's the best way he has put it from my known knowledge. But yeah, this is what I've been thinking about for the past day. 24 hours, to be honest. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I want to implement that into this tech life, really bring some life to it instead of just, oh yeah, I'm building a website. Like, nah, building something that can shape someone's perspective on something. Just finding a deeper meaning behind it. But anyway, I want to look at this video and get a better idea on how I can get this background transparent. So I'm going to start our timer, and I might cut the video out. I don't want to get copyrighted, but shout out to Coder. Pretty good information she puts out. Okay.
And don't forget to set the parent to position relative. First off, unlike background colors, which are child elements of that div. But not to worry, we'll go over why this is happening and give you a quick solution to your opacity calamity. Let's get into it. First off, unlike background colors which allow you to adjust the alpha channel to control opacity, there isn't a CSS property that can control just the background image's opacity. So when you adjust the div's opacity, you're setting a change that gets inherited to everything that's contained in that div. So in this case, that's the background image property and any text that the div contains. In the instance of our text and background image, we need to find a way to separate the background image from the parent. That way, you'll be able to affect just the background image without touching the text. So how does that work in the code? Well, we can put the background image into what we call a pseudo element of the parent. Pseudo elements exist in CSS, but you can't see them in the HTML markup. So if we set the background image on the pseudo element and then change the opacity, it'll only affect the image. We just need to make sure to make it the same size as the parent. You can do this by setting the pseudo element's position property to absolute. We'll also set its top, right, bottom, and left values to 0 so it doesn't collapse. And don't forget to set the parent to position relative to keep the child within its bounds. If you don't set the position of the parent, then the absolutely positioned child will fly up the page into the ether. Also, as a pseudo element, it needs to have its content property set to an empty string. Otherwise, it won't show up on the page at all. Then for the text, which we have in the h1 tag, you will need to set it to position relative so that it'll be on top of the pseudo element with the background image.
Okay, that's a lot. Okay, so let's break it down into easy steps. So first thing to do,
the image. We just need to make sure to make it the same size as the parent. You can do this by setting the pseudo element's position property to absolute.
so is that a pseudo element and before?
Pseudo element and then change. How does that work?
Oh, yeah.
So if we
Keywords that allow you to select specific elements exist in the CSS but not in the HTML. Okay.
set the background image on the pseudo element and then change the opacity, it'll only
So what is it in HTML?
control just the background image's opacity. So when you adjust the div's opacity, you're setting a change that gets inherited to everything that's contained in that div. So in this case, that's the background image.
What you doing?
Recording and working on homework.
Oh, well, I finished all my shelves if you wanted to see.
Okay, I'll check it out later.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Wait, were you still recording?
Yes.
Hi!
Image property and any text that the div contains. In the instance of our text and background image, we need to find a way to separate the background image from the parent. That way, you'll be able to affect just the background image without touching the text. So how does that work in the code? Well, we can put the background image into what we call text. So how does that work in the code? Well, we can put the background text that the div contains. In the instance of our text and background image, we need to find a way to separate the background image from the parent. That way, you'll be able to affect just the background image without touching the text. So how does that work in the code? Well, we can put the background image into what we call a pseudo element of the parent. Pseudo elements exist in CSS, but you can't see them in the HTML markup. So if we set the background image on the pseudo element and then change the opacity, it'll
What is before connected to? That's what I'm confused about. Let me see. So if I have, where's the image? Image SRC. Okay. Am I doing? I feel like there's another way to do opacity. There's gotta be another way to do opacity. Where's my example? There's gotta be another way to do opacity. Change opacity in CSS. Selector, opacity. Oh, wait. Do I gotta reset this real quick? 0, 1. Okay. All right, hold on. 70% opaque, 30% transparent. But I want it to be darker though. That's the... Oh, no. I want to do background color. Opacity applied only to the background image. Ensures the background is behind other content. Let me look at this. How to make darker opacity in CSS. Use the opacity property. Use RGBA for background color. And CSS for an image. After pseudo element over the image within a container, you can control the darkness level using. Oh. So a little bit what she was talking about. All right, hold on. Got a lot of tabs open, but we're gonna figure this out. So placing a dark after pseudo element over the image. After. So now why is this huge? Okay. Because this isn't doing anything. And this surely isn't doing anything. And then this is the one I want to specify, so it will be hero page image. Okay, hold on. Okay, let us do some other. Okay, I know I'm going off track. So I want to copy this link address. I do want to change the image to something more wood fire. Wood fire attire. Oh, that's not it. No. Oh, wow. Wow. Are you serious? I did not want that to take me there. Okay. So can I not, yeah, we're not using that then. Wow. Um, so can I not save this? Let me do this one. I don't want to download it. I just want to copy the image address. Do this. That'll work. It might be kind of blurry, but that'll work. This one might be better. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. This one might be better. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. So we're gonna put this here. Yeah, I like that. Okay, once again, we have our hero page. And now we have to figure out how to make this opacity darker. The gray is cool, but I want it to be darker. So let me go back to... Where is my video? Here it is. Okay.
But you can't see them in the HTML markup. So if we set the background image on the pseudo element and then change the opacity, it'll only affect the image. We just need to make sure to make it the same size as the parent. You can do this by setting the pseudo element's position property to absolute.
Let me try before. Okay. And she said, make sure the position is absolute. Here, let me delete this.
We'll also set its top, right, bottom, and left values to 0 so
It's funny because she's using pixels. Okay, I guess it doesn't really matter.
it doesn't collapse. And don't forget to set the parent to position relative to keep the child within its bounds.
So should I have... Let me do this. Relative, absolute.
If you don't set the position of the parent, then the absolutely positioned child will fly up the page into the ether. Also, as a pseudo element, it needs to have its content property set to an empty string.
Okay.
Otherwise, it won't show up on the page at all. Then for the text, which we have in the h1 tag, you will need to set it to position relative so that it'll be on top of the explicitly set the position property of the text or about z-index and what that all means, and ready for prime time. It'll only affect the image. You can do this with values to 0 so it doesn't collapse. And don't forget to set the parent to position relative to
Lost. That is not what I have on my screen.
To get started in data analytics, you don't need previous experience or a degree. The Google Data Analytics Certificate will teach you to code.
This tutorial will make the image darker in CSS. Okay, so I have a simple HTML boilerplate. This tutorial will make the image darker in CSS. Okay, so I have a simple HTML boilerplate here, and the only element in the body here is an image element. So that's what we have on the page right now. I'm linking to this style sheet. I've given the image a height of 500 pixels. Now let's say we want to make it a little bit darker. Well, the easiest way to do this is simply to use the filter property and use the brightness function. So we can say brightness, and 1 is going to be the same as now, so we can also make it 50% and you'll get a slightly darker image.
No way.
It could also be 0.2. The lower, the darker it's.
All of this for a drop of blood. Let me see. Filter. Probably 0.6. See, maybe I was just looking up the wrong thing. How to make a background image transparent. Here we go. How to make a background image transparent. Maybe I can get away with, not get away, but maybe I can do with this. So this is the hero page. I want to get rid of this gray. Take that out. And I want this to be like 30. Okay. 35. Is that even? Yeah, we're just causing a mess now. Once again, the image isn't even. Did I delete the? Yeah, and I deleted the page. Okay, hold on. Let's see what we can do. drop that. Let's do padding. Top 20. Okay. Not bad. Can I do width? Do 20. Shit. Oh, okay. Well, dang, what do you need? 7. 60. Is there a size element? Size fucking 50. EM. I ain't doing nothing. Or 500. Nah, that's not doing nothing. Let's try position. Salute. Oh, shoot. Is that gonna give me what I'm looking for? For the text to be over the image. Dang, even then, like, I want a full screen text. All right. Let me see position. If it's at, all right, that's our time.